Hi, in this video, we're going to continue talking about global unicast addresses. I'm going to talk specifically about the prefix allocation and finding the subnet. All right, we click, there we go. IPv6 address allocation. Okay, this is the global routing prefix is the it's the part of the address that is allocated to you by either a ISP, some provider, or by a regional internet register. Okay, so an RIR, we kind of show you here, I'm showing you what the minimum allocations are. So a regional internet registry will get at least a /23. What I mean by minimum is they could actually get a something less. They could get a /22 or /21 or /20. What I mean less, a prefix length that is a lower number, which actually gives them more addresses. So that's what that means. Okay. So a regional internet registrar will get at least a /23, Aaron, Wright, any of them. An ISP, an internet service provider, is going to get at least a /32, okay, because they've got to allocate all these networks, these subnets with these interface IDs to the customers. They'll get a variety of these. An enterprise or a site will get at a minimum a /48. So at Cabrillo College, we have a /48. A possible home site prefix, so this was a suggestion in an RFC, is that a home should get a /56. Okay, so what that means is, given that we have typical 64 bits for the interface ID, that would leave 8 bits for the subnet. We'll talk more about that in a moment. That means 8 bits for the subnet. So I get a native IPv6 address from Comcast, although they just give me a /64. They do not give me this /56. So I don't get to subnet. I don't need to subnet, but I only have one network of 18 quintillion devices, or I can have up to 18 quintillion devices. I don't get 8 subnets, 256 subnets, each one with 18 quintillion devices. Actually, when I got my IPv6 address space years ago, I actually had asked them, said, I'm only getting a /64. I should be getting either /48. Actually, Aaron, the regional internet registry, says, they think homes, apartments, if you're renting a room, you should get a /48. That's what they think, because there's plenty of IPv6 address space. But anyway, I told Comcast, hey, I should be getting a /56. And they had no idea what I was talking about on the phone. Okay. Anyway, I offered to send them a copy of my book if they would give me a /56, but they had no idea. I was worried they're going to turn off my TV by accident. Okay. So a subnet prefix is typically a /64. So that's usually what we want to subnet to. Make everything /64s. So everything between, let's say at Cabrillo here, we get a /48. So this gives us 16 bits for our subnet ID, and every subnet is a /64, meaning 64 bits for the prefix portion, the network portion, and 64 bits for the interface ID. Okay. So like I mentioned, I'm getting a /64 at home. Okay, so the global routing prefix, what you get from your service provider or from a regional internet registry will determine how many subnets you get, the size of your subnet ID. Okay, so internally, we're going to create /64 subnets. Okay, everything will have 64 bits for the interface ID. Okay, 18 quintillion hosts per subnet. Okay, our global routing prefix. Well, let's say I go to Aaron, my regional internet registry. This is what UCSC did. They got a /32. What that means is at UC Santa Cruz, they have 32 bits for the subnet ID. That means they get 4.3 billion subnets. Each subnet has 18 quintillion devices. But I want you to think about something here. Where have you heard this /32 before? Where have you heard 4.3 billion of something? IPv4, right? In IPv4, 32 bits is the entire address space of IPv4, the entire address space. The total number of IPv4 addresses is 4.3 billion. UCSC has 4.3 billion, not addresses, subnets. Each subnet has 18 quintillion devices. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. Okay. You'll notice we're going to go each hexadecimal digit. If I go another hex digit, I go from 32 to 36, 4 bits. That gives me a /36 or 28 bits for the subnet ID or 268,000 subnets, each subnet, remember, is 18 quintillion hosts, /40, /44, /48. So this is what most sites will get, including this is what Cabrillo gets from Scenic, our ISP. Okay. So that means we have 65,536 subnets, each one with 18 quintillion devices. /52, there's our /56, what I mentioned about for homes, which would give us 8-bit subnet ID, 4 and 4 here, 8 bits. Or /60, which would give us 16 subnets, just 4 bits for a subnet ID. Okay, but IPv6 lets us create a well-organized and easy to manage addressing plan without having to worry, okay, I gotta borrow from the host portion, and how many hosts do I need in my largest subnet, and how many subnets do I need? Oh my God, let's get away from that, right? So 18 quintillion hosts per subnet, first of all. Then, depending on what you get from your provider, really what you're going to get as a company, anything really from /32 to /48. You're going to have plenty of subnets and plenty of hosts per subnet. Now you can just manage them the way that you want. Okay. PI space versus PA space. So, for example, PI space stands for Provider Independent Space. This is when you go to a regional internet register to get your IPv6 address space. This is what UCSC did. Okay, they actually had to pay for their addresses. But this address stays with them, no matter who their ISP is, because it doesn't belong to their ISP, it belongs to UCSC. So they get to keep this global routing prefix and this address no matter what. Okay, so if they change service providers, ISPs, doesn't matter. They own their own IPv6 address space. Provider aggregatable address space, PA address space, is when the ISP owns that address space and is assigned to the customer. So at Cabrillo, we got our address space from Scenic, our ISP. That address actually belongs to Scenic. Okay. If we changed ISPs, we'd have to get a new address space, different addresses. Okay. So that means we'd have to renumber everything, but there's actually some helpful RFCs to help you do that if you ever needed to do that, meaning we go to a Cabrillo, we go to a different ISP, so we need a different /48, let's say. So this part of the address, if it changed, I'll make it here always /48. If that changed, okay, we could leave our subnets the same, our host addresses same, the static ones or whatever. The only thing that we need to change throughout is our global routing prefix. And actually in Cisco iOS, there's an easy way to do that on the routers. I'm going to show you how to do that. Oops. Okay, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about the global unicast address, the 314 rule. Okay, I'm going to show you about this, how to easily change the global routing prefix in a later video here. But for now, I want to just show you the how easy it is to recognize the subnet. So here at Cabrillo, we got a /48. So I call this the 314 rule. And you can modify this rule depending upon what your global routing prefix is. The reason I call it 314 is a /48 gives us the first three hextets is our global routing prefix. That leaves us with one hextet with the subnet ID. So if I want to look at our prefix or the network portion of any address, I just look at the first four hextets. That's generally the case for any network because most subnets are always going to be /64s or 64-bit interface ID. So I always can just look at the first four hextets for the network portion of my address. But given that I got a /48 from my provider, I see that this is my global routing prefix, and I say, oh, this is always the fourth hextet is my subnet ID. Okay, that leaves 64 bits for the interface ID or 4 hextets. So my host portion is generally the last 4 hextets. Okay, so this is what this would look like. This address here, the first 4 hextets is the network portion, the prefix, with the fourth one being the 0001 or just 1 being the subnet ID, and the last 4 hextets being the interface ID. Of course, if I want to look at that compressed, here's my prefix, the network portion. Here's my subnet. And then, oops, I kind of hid the double colon here. Let me make that again. But all zeros and 100 is my interface ID. It's really that simple. Okay, here's some examples. Did I do this wrong? Let's see. Yep. Okay, I covered these right. I actually had, you can see everything covered, and I was going to uncover them. Okay, but anyway, let's just go through this here. So here's some examples of some /48 addresses over here. Okay, so /48 is very simple. The first 4 hextets on all of these is the prefix, the network portion. Okay, so the first 3 parts, the global routing prefix, then our subnet ID. Here's 1, 2, 3, and then we have a :200. Well, where's our subnet ID? It's actually part of this double colon. The double colon, the all zeros, part of that is the subnet ID, and the rest of it is the interface ID. Same here. Here we have 2 hextets, and looking at our double colon, part of the zeros in that double colon, one of the double zeros hextets is in our global routing prefix. Another all zeros hextet is our subnet ID, and the rest, at least the next 2, because we have ABC :0, this is what the rest of the address would look like, writing it out in the preferred format. Yeah. So here we go, subnet ID right here, and then all zeros. Here's our subnet ID here, Here's my interface. Yes, you can even use the all ones address. This is not a broadcast. Remember, there's no broadcast in IPv6, but that can actually be assigned to a device as if we need it. With 18 quintillion addresses per subnet, we really don't need it, do we? There's the global routing prefix, and there's the subnet. Remember, this is the /48 is the global routing prefix. Okay, most of our subnets that we're going to be subnetting are all /64s. Whoops. Sorry about that. Are /64s. So this means that we have 48 bits is from our actually I shouldn't say global unicast /48. That's our global routing prefix. Excuse me, global routing prefix. I need to change this. Global routing prefix is sorry about that. I don't know if you're seeing that, but sometimes it's moving what I'm sharing with you. Okay, so our global routing prefix is the /48. Put that right there. That's what our ISP assigns us to, but our subnets are actually our prefixes are /64s. 8-bit subnet ID. Okay, hopefully I'm sure you're understanding this stuff. Hopefully. If not, please let me know. Okay, so here's my great animation that I had reversed. Okay, so we're gonna hide all that from you now. Okay, that's enough for prefix allocation and finding the subnet. More in later videos.